Продовжуємо
We continue our in at Ukraine Crisis Media Center, and the next topic for today is: will the High Council of Justice form a virtuous Supreme Court? The results of the contest to the Supreme Court. Vitalii, Tytych, coordinator of the Public Integrity Council; Natalia, Sokolenko, representative of the Public Integrity Council; Halyna, Chyzhyk, coordinator of the Public Integrity Council; and Maselko, representative of the Public Integrity Council. Good afternoon, everyone. We are the members of the Public Integrity Council. We are gathered here, and during this briefing, we want to briefly inform what is going on with the contest to the Supreme Court. So yesterday, there was an important event that legally make a mark in this contest. So the High Council of Justice interviewed 120 candidates to the Supreme Court that were identified as winners in the contest to the Supreme Court by the High Qualification Commission of Judges. And yesterday, High Council of Justice, they went to the meeting room in order to decide who from these 120 candidates will form the judges of the Supreme Court. So 120 winners, I remind this figure to you, but only another number can become real judges in this court, and High Council of Justice should provide this decision. And now, at this moment, in the meeting room, they decide the fate of the Supreme Court. And why and from what this reform started and for what it was carried out, in order to implement and reach three main goals: to clear the judiciary from those people who are not trusted, who committed some crimes, or discredited themselves in some way, and they do not have the right to be in judiciary. And also there should be a renewal of the system in order the judiciary would get new people who are not involved in negative practices that are now present in courts, and also based on two previous things, to revive the trust to judiciary. And in order to implement this, judiciary reform was introduced, and the rules that are integrated into the legislation. And the key rule was the transparency of this reform and the process of selection of judges to the Supreme Court, and also participation of the public. And the Public Integrity Council represents the public, and we believe that we should implement 100% of those functions that we have, and to meet those expectations that people have, in order to provide maximum impartial Supreme Court. And now we inform about what is going on and what situation we have in the contest to the Supreme Court. So we want to repeat that out of 120 people who won the contest, who are now they are reviewed by the High Council of Justice, and out of these 120 people, among them, each fourth of these candidates, they do not meet the requirements of integrity or professional ethics according to the Public Integrity Council. And this information is based on right facts, verified facts that are got from good sources provided by competent bodies. NABU, for example. We also send requests to other bodies that provide information, and we check the registers and we identify those facts. And among those candidates, we have such that gave up their independence and became loyalists, political loyalists, and they violated the key right of each judge, because judges, they should be independent and they should be only guided by law. And there are two judges, Nastavny and Sokolenko. Several years ago, those judges decided on the case to bring to responsibility Yuri Lutsenko, and this was politically motivated case, and there was a resolution of the Council of Europe, and there were declarations of all the ambassadors and representatives of international organizations that this is political persecution. And despite all those evident facts, Sokolenko and Nastavny became the winners of this contest, and Mr. Nastavny got second place in criminal cassation court in the contest for this court. So they identified him as the nearly ideal candidate. So these people would decide key criminal cases, and these judges, they cannot be considered as an independent. And there are judges that in times of Maidan decided they brought doubtful decisions, Zolotnikov, who in times of Maidan in Odessa, he forbid peaceful gathering in the central part of Odessa, and he didn't mention that in his declaration of integrity, and he is also the winner of the contest. And also those judges, their assets do not meet their profits, and when you ask them, they cannot explain this. We can remember Ms. Stupak, who lives in a house that is really expensive. This is near Kiev. It belongs to her mother-in-law. And during the interview, she was directly asked whether he can confirm the sources of the origin of this house. And she said no. And she doesn't declare her place of residence. She got a flat from the state, and then they changed the status of this, and this is all. These arguments are not considered by the council, and they just brought this decision. And also Judge Stupak, there is a decision to fully carry out verification, and criminal investigation is started by NABU, because there can be some information that is wrong in the declaration. And Ms. Chervinska, she has a 23-year-old son, and he bought a house in Bucha town, and they can't explain the sources of income, and other candidates that cannot say whether these money come from. And Bogdan Lvov, a renowned judge, he couldn't remind whether he paid the customs duty when he brought valuable watches, whether he paid this duty or not. So this is just something small for them. All this was brought out, but there was no proper assessment of these facts during the meeting of High Council of Justice. Also, there were things connected with the cover-up of negative things in judiciary. They allowed one hand washes the other things, and also there are people who organized some illegal events during Maidan, and those people avoided responsibility. Lisko and Simonenko, these judges, they were under position, and they didn't implement the measures, proper measures, and the High Council of Judges and those judges made everything possible that key people, key organizers went outside, and they were not punished. So they preserved all these bad practices that are in courts, and it resulted in the bad situation that we face now. Unfortunately, these candidates, if we consider the interviews, these candidates easily got into winner phase, and each of these candidates that got negative results in the Supreme Court, they would provoke that it won't change, it will remain the same, and they would annihilate the results of this contest. At this 30 people, they should not be among the Supreme Court judges, and we believe that their participation in the Supreme Court will kill trust to the new but not renewed Supreme Court. And my colleague will tell you more about what was going on in the High Council of Justice and what we want to do next. Good afternoon, dear participants. At the start of August this year, High Qualification Commission of the Judges of Ukraine provided to the High Council of Justice the materials about 120 winners of the contest, out of which 30 considered by civil society. They are considered that lack integrity. We analyzed those explanations provided by those 30 candidates in the course of the interview and in the course of plenary sessions, and we got the conclusion that these 30 candidates, they didn't reject those ugly facts that became the grounds that they do not meet the requirements of integrity and proper ethics. That's why we addressed High Council of Justice, and we said that High Qualification Commission of Judges didn't provide proper assessment of all the facts provided by the Public Integrity Council, and voiced readiness to cooperate with the High Council of Justice and to provide proper ground why we believe that these 30 candidates, that they should not be in the new Supreme Court. And 11th of August, we got from the High Council of Justice a decision signed by Mr. Donisyuk, and they declared the readiness to cooperate with the Public Integrity Council. And in the letter of Benedisyuk, it is said that in order to meet proper criteria and professional ethics of some candidates, the High Council of Justice will invite the Public Integrity Council council, and they will, and in this way, High Council of Justice said that they are ready to cooperate with the Public Integrity Council, and also they believe that the representatives of that we should participate in the meetings. But on the 14th of August, High Council of Justice started the interviews with 120. They started to consider these candidates, and before this, they reviewed the conflict of interest matter. And in 52 cases, the members declared they won't be able to objectively take decision concerning separate candidates because there is a conflict of interest in place. But only in 4 cases out of 52, the High Council of Justice supported the declarations about the rejection. So from 14th until 25th of August, they reviewed the candidates and separate members of, they said that they have conflict of interest, but they still was considered. And the Public Integrity Integrity Council, we heard about Mr. Zolotnyuk, and this judge forbid the peaceful gatherings in times of revolution of dignity, and the Public Integrity Council made conclusions that he do not meet requirements of integrity, but the High Council of Justice didn't provide us with word, and we addressed all the members of this council in order that they provide information. and why we believe that 30 candidates among the winners, that they should not take place in the Supreme Court. But we were not provided with opportunity to take part in meetings of the High Council of Justice, and they ignored our information that we provided about the candidates, and they also rejected the wish to cooperate with the public in this way. So we can make conclusion that the High Council of Justice, they didn't want to investigate the case of integrity of the candidates to the new Supreme Court, because the decision, the candidates were reviewed, considered the conflict of interest on one of the candidates to the Supreme Court, who is the member of the High Council of Justice, Alla Lisko, in her questionnaire also mentioned another member, Natalia, who can recommend her as a judge of the Supreme Court. And Anatoly Miroshnichenko was not he also provided information about her then. So it shows that the High Council of Justice, unfortunately, is not aimed at forming real, impartial Supreme Court. And I would like to give the floor to Mr. Tytych. Good afternoon. Thank you. And my colleagues provided the details of the cases, and we want to bring this information to the public. And I would like to briefly sum up about the procedure, the consequences of work, and they provided technical part of this contest, and you know that the participants of the contest and also we have many questions to the procedures that were implemented by the High Council of Justice, and there were many violations of methodology that was established, that was changed in the course of contest, and also the decisions are not clear and the motivation is not clear. And the conclusions and information provided by the Public Integrity Council that was provided to the High Council of Justice. And when the dossiers of the candidates were provided, we didn't know what was taken into account, why they didn't take, or they took into account something, and why something was rejected. If we call things by their own names, so not only 20% out of 120 of these candidates that are impartial, but there are candidates, about 40 candidates, and there was negative information provided to the council, and we didn't have resources to verify this information properly. We do not know what conclusions that were made out of this information, what was established in the course of this verification. We do not know this. And in this case, as colleagues said, this was done, it was provided to the High Council of Justice, and it brought the necessity for to the Public Integrity Council. We decided to propose our help to the High Council of Justice, and to verify recommendations. And the only ground for not accepting these recommendations was that this candidate do not meet the requirements of integrity and ethics, and that his nomination will lead to negative consequences for the judiciary. And what this nomination will bring. So also we can consider the information that we provided about the candidates, and as Galina said, the High Council of Justice didn't consider information provided by the Public Integrity Council, and also rejected to accept information directly from the Public Council of Justice. These members, despite that the head of the High Council of Justice at the briefing said that they said that the High Council of Justice will work with the materials that will be sent from all interested parties, including the Public Integrity Council, and will review these documents. So my colleagues mentioned those cases, and we registered these cases in the work of the High Council of Justice when the rapporteur didn't voice the information provided, and this information was not taken into account by High Council of Justice in the consideration of the nominees. And despite promises, despite official documents of the High Council of Justice, the members of the Public Integrity Council, they didn't have the opportunity to provide this information in the course of the meetings and to make it public and to correct those intentional or non-intentional faults that the High Council of Justice was not properly informed about this case. And unfortunately, this was not corrected in the activity. These needs still to be corrected, and we have grounded concerns about the procedure. And I would like to say my personal opinion that whether we can call this a contest on the whole. And we believe that the High Qualification Commission and the High Council of Justice, they should understand the expectations of the public, and that they will do everything possible. And when the High Council of Justice will end their meeting, they should meet the expectations of the public that really want to get results. So, it's Natalia Sokolenko, representative of the Public Integrity Council. So, Mr. Tytych said that I would like to remind about Article 79 about the judiciary and status of judges, that the High Council of Justice do not allow if there are doubts about the candidate, they cannot be introduced, or if there are some negative consequences that can negatively impact the public trust to judiciary. So if we provide information that some candidates do not meet the requirements about integrity, it is in adherence to the law of Ukraine, so our requirements within this article of the law. And I believe that the members of the High Council of Justice should remember about their predecessors and their fakes, and they should look thoroughly at our work, about our considerations, not only in conclusions, but also concerning the information about 49 candidates that also raise a lot of concerns and can also bring mistrust, as it is said in the law. And we do not have access to information from the tax service, and these bodies, they have this information. They just can take the declaration with all the assets, all the buildings, 400 square meters, and also they can see what taxes those judges paid. We do not have such access as High Council of Justice and High Qualification Commission have. So the House, if they have 400 meters of space in the House, these judges cannot be trusted, and we also address the High Council of Justice. Please, if you are pressured, we will help you. We will bring journalists, and we will bring attention of law enforcers. But you should act according to the law. But because if you violate the law, you will be punished for this. And also, we are the Public Integrity Council and all other people who support reform and who want to have in Ukraine real Supreme Court. We won't stop. And if we see bad results, if we see that there is no contest, we wouldn't stop. And we will continue our activity. And I won't. You remember what happened 3 years ago or other periods of our history. So glory to Ukraine. Thank you, dear colleagues. Do you have questions? Please ask. Please introduce yourself first. Good afternoon, Yulia Bliznyuk and Media. And when did you expect to get the results of this contest to the Supreme Court? Do you understand? Do you know when it will happen? Does it depend on the High Council of Justice, and you do not know the date? So this is a good question that discloses an essence of this contest. From one side, there are objective reasons why they met there in that meeting room. They will discuss it for a long time, and answering your question directly, no one knows, and they do not know exactly when. And yesterday, they say that you will see the information on the site. But we would like to get this information in another way. And they should be more, they should meet expectations of the public. But there is different aspect often. So we do not know what will be the result of this so-called transparent contest. We do not know the criteria, how this result will be formed. And if we all saw a good picture on YouTube, everyone could see how it was going on. Sometimes it was hard, sometimes it was loyal, and everyone could just watch it and to reach his own opinion. And there was an open process. But all the key decisions are taken behind closed doors and according to criteria that are known only to those who take these decisions. And the motivation part of the decision, they do not disclose it except to those people who took those decisions. And we do not know why High Qualification Commission recommended that or these or that people. And if you look at on the site and information about the candidates and the decisions of the High Qualification Commission, why these people became the winners, you will see some scores, but you won't get information why they get different scores, why 30th place or some other place there is 1.5 scores difference, but no one explained why it is so, why you have these scores and they have that scores. So if you want to understand why in negative conclusions, why they were overcame, you do not know, and you cannot find the logic of the High Qualification Commission, why Natalia and Sokolenko are the winners, and they are at so high places, and you do not know who and in what way they voted. And it is good if we know what are the scores, but no one knows who voted and how they voted. You cannot understand this. So there is no personal responsibility. So it looks that the contest is transparent, but the main decisions are outside of the view, and the discretion is big. And why it happened in this way, no one want to do this. So the issue is maybe rhetoric one. Do you have other questions, please? Maybe you will voice this and our view about these two bodies of High Qualification Commission and also High Council of Justice. So I just interested about the essence of these bodies. So we didn't discuss the parallel existence of this body, but now the main problem of this contest and maybe the future contests and the future contests for judges and the hypothetical selection of judges to high courts. So these institutions are not reformed, and this is number one problem that we face. The same people who should have underwent this procedure, so their qualification level should be established, and these people, they select the Supreme Court judges and maybe will be involved in anti-corruption judges selection. So this is problem number one. Do you have other questions? Please ask. So there are no further questions, so we will wait for results. Thank you.